Unfortunately, I'm not surprised, but again, disappointed. That was a very simple point. You know, the amendment was really simply about what you think is an appropriate role for the state of government when it comes to the people of Connecticut and their paychecks. All I was asking is that the state respect people enough to ask them first before taking money out of their paycheck. That's what the amendment was about. And everyone who voted yes, thank you for your vote, for respecting our constituents, the people that we represent, for doing the right thing and respecting that it's their money and not ours, and they should make the determination about what to do with it, not the people in this room. But I am disappointed that that amendment did indeed pass. And I want to just go back to the one bone of contention that apparently I have with the good senator, the esteemed chairman of the Labor Committee, who I do have tremendous respect for. But I do believe that we have a significant disagreement over what the federal law is regarding financial contributions. And I'm going to discuss that in a second. But I do think it's super important for people to go look it up for themselves and find out what the law actually says. I think you're going to find out that I'm right. I also think that it's a very important illustration of what I've been trying to say through this entire debate, which is that when it comes to investing money for your retirement, an incredible set of decisions that people make about their own future, that they make with their own wisdom and decision-making power they have as free citizens, that should be maintained. And it should not be replaced by a mandatory government program that imposes it upon you who doesn't even know what the requirements are. It is true that you can donate to both a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, and that the limit for each of those is $7,000 currently per year, up to age 50, and $8,000 per year. But you cannot max out in both of them. You could put half the money in one, or almost all the money in one, and put some of the money in the other, but you cannot exceed that limit. That is the fact. I encourage anyone to look it up. I know this issue very, very clearly, and that is, in fact, the case. And it concerns me that the proponents of this legislation are not aware of that, and yet insist that the limited offerings that are part of the MyCT Savings Program that are determined outside the confines of this bill, they are just decided by the bureaucracy. Whoever happens to be sitting in the comptroller's seat is going to make this decision along with his staff. And there's not a single requirement for any of them to be licensed securities brokers, have any financial experience or knowledge, nothing at all. Yet, people in the private sector that sell these products have to go through all of that. And why? Because they're dealing with important life-changing decisions, and that's the way it ought to be, to protect our constituents. This bill does not protect anyone. On the first hand, it competes with private business, something the state has no business doing, frankly, especially when it can't do it to the same quality or level of proficiency. I think that we've made a strong case here today that the state is not capable of competing with any true licensed, experienced financial planning operation. It can't even compete with a website or a phone application in performing this service. It costs the taxpayers money for staff and people. It also costs the resources of the comptroller's office, which in my mind, I've never cast a vote for comptroller thinking that I was giving him the power to run my retirement. That's absurd in my view. This bill is a mandate on businesses as well. This is a mandate telling businesses that they have to go through a bunch of hoops just to operate a business in this state of Connecticut. Why are they responsible for tracking deductions for the MyCT Savings Program? Why? Are they being compensated for that? Is anyone cutting a check to the cleaners down the street or the small mom and pop restaurant? No, no one's paying them for the process that they're being required to do by the state. Again, here it is. The Democrats, the state of Connecticut, the way that they operate this state is that we all work for them and it's their money. We don't get to decide anything for ourselves. They will take the money out of your paycheck. You have to go through the trouble of finding out about it, maybe, and then you got to decide to take it back or opt out of the program. This is not the way to do business. This is a direct and utter violation of freedom, number one, because you're denying people the choice of being able to determine whether they want to participate from the outset. You're potentially causing them financial problems if money is taken out that conflicts with what they've done already on their own. They could end up, and I'm certain it has already happened, they've been required to pay fines for not following the federal guidelines through no fault of their own, through the fault of this policy being enacted and operated with willful disregard, frankly, of what the federal law is and complying with it. This is bureaucrats deciding that they are going to do financial and tax recommendations without the knowledge to do so. And I think it is just a misnomer to suggest that people are being helped by this. If you truly want to help, create a program that encourages people to save, using what already exists out there in the private sector. Don't compete with the private sector. Drive people to encourage them to save, to contact a financial advisor. The vast majority of them don't charge anything up front. If you get a Schwab account on your phone, it's free. This is not free. This costs every one of us in the form of tax dollars. I encourage my colleagues to vote down this expansion of this program because it's already bad enough. This is going to allow the comptroller to set the amount that is taken from someone's paycheck, maybe without their knowledge or consent, all the way up to 10% in the first year and 15% a year beyond that. It might cause them to come in conflict with your tax regulations with the IRS, and you'll end up paying the penalties. I doubt the state of Connecticut's going to come along and go, sorry about that, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. We didn't mean to screw you up and take too much and put it in this account and cause you to violate the tax code. I don't think anyone's going to come to your rescue. I think you'll be stuck paying that penalty. Because frankly, they don't care. The bureaucracy does not care. If you go to a private entity and they screw it up, they'll be actually responsible for their screw up. And you'll always have the choice to choose a different provider next time. When the state decides to take the place of people that provide services and goods in the private sector, no one benefits. Nobody does, because they end up having every advantage to outpace and take the place of those private sector entities, because they don't have to do the same things. They don't have to deal with the same liability. They don't have to deal with the same responsibilities. They can just outcompete. They can spend advertising out of tax dollars, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be the ability to collect taxes. And what happens is, when the state is providing those services, the quality is diminished. There is no question about it, because they don't have the same obligation to maintain a standard of quality that a private company would, who's actually competing to stay in business. And this is a shining example of people that will be at a disadvantage for participating in this program than if they were actually using a private sector alternative. If the state truly wants to help, if the majority wants to help people, what they ought to do is encourage people to participate in their own decision-making about their retirement, not take money from their paycheck without asking. I'm a no on this bill today, Madam President, because I don't believe we ought to further expand what is a failing program, which I think is going to fail under its own weight. 2016 is when this passed. 2016. Here we are. It's 9 years later. They've only enrolled 30,000 individuals in a state that has 1.7 million employees. That's how few people are actually participating in it. And this bill is designed to create more force and pressure to put people in the program. Half of the bill is dedicated to penalties, fines that will be leveled against employers. It's bad policy to be fining employers for forcing people to participate in something that the private sector offers voluntarily and that people should be making their own choices and decisions about. So I'll be a no today, as I said, Madam President, and I encourage my colleagues to look at this from the lens of protecting your constituents in a way that allows them to make the proper choices on their own and not be forced by the state government on what to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Will you remark?
Senate Bill 1221, total number voting 36, total voting yea 25, total voting nay 11, absent not voting 0.
Legislation